That's amazing.
Yes, Gavora's rocking. Okay, with that said,
like it really shows me.
am I in it? On my
Yeah.
in my head cut off?
No.
Nope. Oh, beautiful. I am perfect.
When you get closer, now you're cut off.
Okay, I'm going back.
I was about to do it.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Here we are yet again for an incredible SAI, which stands for Systematic Avaida Initiative. This SAI is based on this book. So this one's called Sphere Transformation, and it's based on The Counting of the Eimer, a book by Rai Simon Jacobson. Every single day of the Sphere Eimer, there is a page to read. It has, this week I've been working hard on my Gevura. Woo, this week has hit me. Anyway, I think I connect more to the chesed side of things. Like, am I a good disciplinarian? Ooh. But anyway, so our program is based on doing your daily reading, and then we provide you with a Living Chassidus beautiful journal. And in that journal, you are meant to journal based on the reading at least once a week. So when you do that, every other week, we have a Farbrengen. And tonight, we are hosting a Farbrengen for the transition between Gevura and Tiferes. So tonight is a really exciting time period to Farbreng. And I love how the Kvias worked out. I looked at the calendar, I'm like, this is so great. It worked out that like Wednesday nights is like that switcheroo between one and the other. So as part of the SAI program, we like to not just focus on the spiritual and the Nefesh Elokis. We also try to get our Nefesh Bahamas a little enticed and excited about doing the readings. So for everyone who has done their daily reading and has done at least one journal per week, we would like to celebrate them by giving them a present. So tonight's present, I felt, was very appropriate, being that we are in Shnas Hakel, and tonight we're having a Hakel Farbrengen amongst all of us. And I've actually been enjoying this beautiful booklet, which actually gives a really powerful description of what Hakel is all about. I feel like the Rebbe made a big sturm, which is very new for the Jewish world, because Hakel was not a thing. Like, it was a thing, but it was a thing of ancient times that wasn't really kept these days. So it's actually a funny story, which, whatever. Okay, I'll share it since I already started. But it's actually a funny story because my midwife is from Baruch Hashem, and I made a playlist that I wanted to play while I was giving birth. And I decided to let Hashem be the DJ that night. So I just pressed shuffle. And it went on shuffle, and I feel like every single song and every single niggin that came up at the time was exactly perfect what I needed for that stage in my labor. And it happens to be that I mentioned to the midwife, or both midwives that were around, I said, can you please take note of what song is playing when I give birth? And Baruch Hashem, it was such a great zchus that right after I gave birth and I sat down and like I took a moment to enjoy my baby and relax. And I pay attention at what's playing, one of the famous Hakel niggins. And I scream out, it's a Hakel baby with a Hakel song. And it was really, really cute. But I feel like she didn't understand what I was talking about, because Hakel is such a big deal in Lubavitch, but it not necessarily is made a big deal anywhere else. So anyway, so now everybody, Be'ez Hashem, is gonna get to enjoy this booklet on Hakel, which is based out of a series. It's a little pamphlet taken out of a series that is brand new that I definitely suggest. I'm enjoying it so far. The Basics of Chassidus by Rabbi Nissen David Duvav and Rabbi Naftali Hertz Pevsner. So, wait, is he? Sounds good. Beautiful. Now I am going to share. Yes, there is. Okay. I am going to share the names of the people who are Here we go. The names of the people who are going to get this wonderful prize. In the meantime, for anyone who's asking, because I have a few people asking, that's that. Okay, so we would like to congratulate. Oh, I also thank you, my brain, for reminding me. I have to say the people's names who tonight's in honor of. So, okay, we would like to congratulate. A huge mazel tov to Bracha Zirkin, Esther Citrin, Brachi Mishalavin, Esther Malka Cohen, Fegi Shvei, Simcha Herrera, Adina Lapine, Yehuda Chernovsky, Devorah Kapalovich, Debroshi Krinsky, I need to change that, Gula Backer, Ruta Cohen, Ariela Zuckerman, Chaya Liebman, Sima Dashevsky, and Ita Garavich. They always get the special mention. Yes, exactly. So huge mazel tov to all of you. Feel free to pick up your booklet. It's on the table on the side. And while we excitingly wait for our speaker, I will keep it going. I will say tonight is kindly and lovingly and gorgeously sponsored by, hold your horses, ladies. Hold your horses.
They're trying to let go of me.
Okay, our incredible birthday wisher has helped me.
What did I do?
You've helped me find who tonight is. Okay. Tonight is sponsored by, this part I knew, Ariella Serach Tokum. And she would like to sponsor it in honor of a very dear family friend from Israel who was with her and encouraging her through her journey to Yiddishkeit. And his name is Eliyahu Ben Rafal. May his neshama have the greatest aliyah.
Amen.
So thank you so much, Ariella. We want to wish you a happy birthday on behalf of Living Chassidus. Belated happy birthday. And we are so, so grateful for your sponsorship. We would also like to invite, hold on. We would like to make tonight's shir Leole Nishmas Eliezer Lipman Ben Yoshua, who is a friend of mine's father. And it seemed like it was yesterday was his yahrzeit. And all of our Torah learning and all of our inspiration should give these incredible people an aliyah and a shalom. L'chaim. Okay. And now.
Counting? Everyone's counting?
We're counting.
I actually forgot to count for the first night, but yeah, I'm counting.
Okay, that's
No,
good.
seriously.
It took me many years to actually count properly. Hi, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I'm happy you joined us tonight. The topic is beautiful. It's really I was thinking about it a lot, and there's so many elements to it, and there's so many ways to look at Gevura in general, which I encounter a lot in my work. So I feel very connected to being very firm sometimes, but I learned throughout life that it's just not enough. It could be very destructive, and it could be very positive at the same time, but you have to know how to maneuver it. And I think that Malchut, nobility within Gevura, gives it the perfect combination in my opinion, because it just has so many elements to it. So because Michal asked me that we should speak about this topic today, I was trying to combine stories that I've heard, things from my life, and to find a way to really look at this topic in a way that we can also bring about it, and that each one of you maybe can find an element that personally connects to you, and not just in one way. And even as I was driving, I even thought about something that I didn't even consider to say today, but the most simple thing that we hear a lot since childhood is who is a brave person, a person who is able to conquer his own Yetzer Hara, or his own Yetzer, the things that bring him down in many ways. So it's not a question, it's actually a statement of a Gibor, somebody who has Gevura, is a person who is able to overcome his negative aspects, or the things that bring him personally down. So Gevura in many ways is not, we think about it in one sense of being like firm and having like audacity to do certain things, but it's not necessarily. It could be that my Gevura and one thing will be something that's very easy for somebody else to do, and for them something else will be Gevura. So it's also very personal, and it's also how you look at it. So you can be very accomplished in many ways if you're able to overcome things that bring you down, or that hinder you from actually being your best self. And that's also a way to look at it. But in a general sense, and looking at Gevura can really help us a lot. But you have to think about it in a way of how it can help you bring yourself to a better place, and how also through your own actions you can help someone else. And it comes many ways in chinuch, when we do something and when other people are watching us and we don't really know how our actions can affect them, but through the way we talk and through the way we behave in our environment, and with children and with adults and with anybody around us, we can also help someone else through their struggles. So there's one story I wanted to share with you, which was really, it's not a story about direct Gevura, but the way it was handled by the Baal Shem Tov shows a lot about how a person, how we should approach things and what real Gevura is. So you might know the story, but I'll bring it up and we'll talk about the elements that I noticed about it. So there was a man, he was a simple guy, and he was traveling somewhere. And as he was traveling, his carriage, something happened to his carriage, and it was like, back in the olden days, they didn't have time, they didn't have a clock, they didn't have like things. They were traveling, looking at the sun, knowing that like if they leave on Friday and they're not somewhere in time, there'll be a Mechalel Shabbos, so they would stop on the way. So he was traveling, and he realized that he's not going to be in time for Shabbos, and he didn't find any town close by, and his carriage, so he just continued until he got somewhere close, and that's where he spent his Shabbos. And he felt very, very bad, and he went to his rabbi. When he went to his rabbi told him to do like all these things. Bless you. He told him to do all these things, like don't eat for a week, torture yourself, like all these things that are, oh, so cute. This is like way better than this. Wow, this is so cute. It's the first time we meet. Sorry, guys, the baby's like. So basically, so this man like was also like very weak, so he wasn't able to do all these things that his rabbi told him. And at one point he got very sick, and he came to the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov could sense that he was very regretful towards what happened, and that he's really remorseful. So he said, you know what, every Friday you'll bring candles for the shul, and it's fine, and you're forgiven, and it's okay, and Hashem loves you, and don't torture yourself. His rabbi that told him to do all these things got a little bit upset and was thinking like, what is the Baal Shem Tov thinking to tell him to just like bring Shabbos candles and that's good enough? So the Baal Shem Tov called for his rabbi to come to him, and he said, okay. So he goes to him, and he leaves on a Friday, really early morning, and he's sure he's going to make it in time, no problem. And the man that was taking him there made a wrong turn, and they get there very, very late, and he gets there like huffing and puffing, like mamash, like Shabbos came in already. And the Baal Shem Tov tells him, before you tell someone else to do all these things, and because he by mistake was Mechalel Shabbos, he didn't mean it, and he was so remorseful, check yourself first. And it wasn't like the Baal Shem Tov understood that it was wrong that he broke Shabbos, but he didn't do it on purpose. And the Gevura here is to understand that, okay, a man did something wrong. So he has to take a responsibility and do something weekly that will remind him of what he did, but it also makes him feel good that he's bringing light to the shul. Can you imagine you're bringing Shabbos candles every day to a shul and everyone is lighting these candles? What kind of good feeling that leaves you? So even in moments where you're mad at yourself, you're like, okay, and so that's the gevura part of it, that you have to do something for what happened. You should have calculated your time better. But at the same time, the malchus here is that what is, when I thought about malchut, a king. What is a king, for example? What is melucha? Melucha, like being royalty. Royalty is somebody that understands and knows how to hold a community, how to help people, how to give advice, how to solve problems. And in that way, he's royal, but he also helps elevates themselves. So the Baal Shem Tov, really, what did he do? Instead of thinking on what's negative, he elevated the moment by having him do something positive. And he said, what is gevura is sometimes also putting yourself in the shoes of someone else. It's not always being right or saying no, or it's sometimes just taking a step back, understanding that something is wrong in the situation, but also putting yourself in the position of that someone else and how would you feel, and being able to give them good advice and to help them feel better about the situation. That's the malchus in the situation. So he gave him a tikkun for it. And the other rabbi was just gevura. He was like, did something wrong, you have to pay for it, and that's it. He wasn't helping him elevate himself from that situation. And that's what I found so interesting in it. And there's a lot of things to learn from that. I'm recalling like a situation that two kids were like fighting over something today. And it was a doll, and the doll was missing an eye. And one child said, I don't want the doll because it's missing the eye. The other child, another girl came, she took the doll and she said, but it has one eye, meaning she was looking at what it does have rather than what it doesn't have. So being a giver is also saying, I have this, I'm going to do the best I can with this. And I'm going to elevate it also. I'm not just going to let it be here. And this is the malchut part of it, is where you're able to take something, be strong about it and firm, but also elevate it, and not just elevate yourself, elevate your environment. And today, it's the 28th of Nisan, when the Rebbe said that it's up to us to bring Mashiach. He said, I've done all I can. And I thought about it. How is that have to do with gevura? How does that have to do with malchut? How does that have to do with lama dafka now? There was a reason why, the Rebbe said certain things at certain times, because being in the malchut of gevura is also elevating other people. And there's actually a very nice story about the Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, who wrote the Tanya. And on purpose, I'm using that instead of saying the Alter Rebbe, because sometimes my friends laugh at me that I say it wrong because I'm Israeli, so I say it funny. And then also for people who just don't know the name of the Rebbe. So, I'm a Balat Tshuva, and sometimes when people used to say certain name, I'm like, who is that? What is that? And I'm like, I have to look it up and whatever. So Rabbi Shneur... So Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi wrote the Tanya, and he really left us with so much wisdom. And there was a story of two Hasidim that were, they merited to have the zchut of Pidyon Shvuim. There was two young orphanages, orphans. They lived in a town that they had no parents, and the town raised them. And they were very sweet kids. So when they got older, the town wanted to marry them off. And they made an effort to arrange for the wedding and for everything together. So it was a very poor town. Nobody had money. It was mash here and there, they gathered things. Now, there was a very mean man there. He was from the people who were ruling the town. And he decided to take him hostage, and that they would have to pay a very high ransom to take him out. That specifically on the wedding day. So it was a really bad situation. And these Hasidim come to the Rabbi Shneur Zalman, and they say, look, we want you to help us. And Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi was very smart. He had Ruach HaKodesh. He knew certain things that they might not have understood. And he said, okay, I'm going to go with you. But if I go with you, I have my terms are that if we have a disagreement about something, my word counts and nothing else. There's no argument. And one of the Hasidim like looking at the other one was like, are you sure? Like, this is like, why is he so insane? He's like, if he insists, there's a reason for that. And they agree and he goes with them. So he tells them, before we go anywhere, there's no time. He said, I would like you to make a list of all the people in the town. And the guys are like, there's no time. We're going to have everyone merit in this chus. Like, we'll knock on all the doors, whoever has a mezuzah, and everyone will give what they can give. If they have to sell their rings or their whatever it is, they'll give us whatever they have. And he knew that there were not a lot of people with money in the town. So even if put all their money together, it was not enough for the ransom price. So they gave him the list, and he looked at the list. And he said, someone is missing. And he said, yeah, there's a rich man here, but he never gives anybody anything. He said, add him to the list. So they added him at the end of the list. And he said, no, put him on top of the list. We're going to start with his house. They're like, well, this is going to be a waste of time. We're going to go there. He's not going to give us a dime, and we're going to end up not being able to get him out in time. So he said, don't worry, let's go. Because it was, again, in disagreement. And he said that they agreed with him that if there's a disagreement, he wins. So they end up going to this man's house, and they knock on the door, and Rabbi Shneur Zalman tells him every single thing. Tells him every single thing about the details about these two young people, that they want to get married, and how he was taken, he was taken in, and they want so much money, and he was telling them all their life story, how hard their childhood was, and like this whole sob story he tells them, and this man is like, okay, whatever, it looks like it really touched him in a way, and he's like, okay, at least maybe he'll give something. So he goes into this cabinet where he has like all his money, and everyone knew that he's like really wealthy. He opens it up. He takes like this rustiest coin that there's nothing there, like no gold, no silver, nothing, no value at all, and gives it to the Alter Rebbe. And he tells him, here, take. And he tells him, Yeshar Koach. Thank you very much. The other two Hasidim want to like smack him. They're like, and the rabbi's like turning them around. Let's go. We're going. We're leaving. And they're leaving. They're about to go. They're really out the door. And he runs to them and he says, please forgive me. Please, 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 please forgive me. I can't believe I hardly gave you anything. It's such a big mitzvah. Please come back. I'm going to give you a little bit more. And he takes a bunch of coins and he gives it to them. And again, he tells them, Yeshar Koach, thank you so much. Hashem shall bless you for this. And they're about to leave. And again, he runs to them. They're already outside in the yard. He runs to them. He says, come, please come. Again, 10 times, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And every time he gives them more money. And within this money, gold, silver, it starts piling up until he gave them all the money that they needed for the ransom. And he even wanted to give them more, but Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi said, no, we don't need, that's it, that's all we needed, and we're going to go, and Yeshar Koach, and he blesses him, and he leaves. And they get the young boy out, they arrange for the marriage, everything works out, it's all good. And Rabbi Shneur Zalman sits with the two Hasidim and says, I want to speak to you now. He says, you didn't understand why I was so firm about this, and why I was so stubborn, and why I didn't let you embarrass the man. And he said that this man once gave, he said he always had like money, but he was a little stingy, and the Yetzer Hara worked on him really well. And one day he tried to give a poor person money. He came to his house, he gave him to eat something, and then he wanted money, so he gave him the rusty coin, and the poor person threw it back at him, and he cursed him, and he said, I can't believe these people, they don't work, they want food, they want money, I'm never giving money again. So every time he wanted to give, the Yetzer Hara made him remember the situation, and it hardened his heart, and it just made him more and more of a klipa. So he became like nothing. There was nothing in him anymore, no remorse towards any situation. When he was told Yeshar Koach for the rusty coin, it brought up his goodness. So Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi was very firm. He had Gevura all the way, even with the Hasidim. He was like, we're going to do it my way or no way, because he understood that in this situation, in order to help the young man and in order to get this man out of his his sleepiness and his like its situation where he's not giving any tzedakah, he helped two people by doing one thing. But at the same time, his malchus came out when he's like yeshar koach. He gave him something that has no value, but he said yeshar koach. Why? Because he saw something good in him, and through his patience and through his actions, he brought up so much more. And that's the beauty of it, that sometimes, we understand we have to be firm with ourselves, with others, but is it building something? Is it creating something? It's like analyzing the situation and saying, can I be firm? Can I be in Gevura, but in a way that will also take out something good from others? When the Rebbe said, it's up to you, I've done everything I can, maybe this is part of what he meant, that it's up to us to start seeing the goodness in ourselves and in others, and being in Gevura by taking it out in a positive way, by helping each other. And this was a situation where you see where our Rebbeim taught us to think differently, to think out of the box. Just because you see someone doing something bad doesn't mean they're bad. Just because you see someone is not doing something doesn't mean it's because they necessarily don't want to do it. Maybe something happened earlier in their life that needs to be rectified. And only through interactions with other people, it could be rectified. Today's Hayom Yom, the book that the Rebbe compiled about the messages for every day, talks about loving God and loving another fellow man as the same thing. Because when you love God, you love his children, and it goes together. It's not separate. And it's not so easy as it sounds sometimes, because it requires a lot of work. Does anybody relate to that? Do you feel like, does this resonate with you? Do you have these struggles sometimes? Does anybody want to share something? Yes. And also, like in the story, he made him remember that aversive situation every time. So every time that he saw someone poor, it reminded him of that situation. So the person, and we have to fight it. Just because one time something didn't work out or something didn't go our way doesn't mean that we shouldn't try it again, maybe in a different way. Gevura can come in many different forms. I had a very interesting situation on the second days of Chag, on Chol HaMoed. I got out of the house in the morning and said, Hashem, merit me that I should do another mitzvah for another Jew today, please. And I always drive around with things of that holiday. So I had matzah in my car. I had boxes of matzah in my car to give out. And I said, you never know who you meet. You meet Jewish people everywhere you go. So basically what happened was I drove to visit an older lady to do a mitzvah. And as I was driving there, I found like a good parking. I parked my car and I see a lady, she passes by with her dog and she looks at my car, at the back of my car, and the plate on my car says challah. So she's looking at the plate on my car and she says challah. And I said, yeah, it says challah, but we can't have challah now. It's Pesach. And for Pesach, I put a sticker machula going, because I got so many people stopping me. You can't have challah now. I'm like, I sold it. so she looked at the thing. So she didn't see the machula, but she saw the challah. So I said, are you Jewish? And she said, well, I know what challah is. I said, the whole world knows what challah is today. You can't miss it. So I told her, did you have matzah? It's Pesach. And she says, no, I'm not a good Jew. I didn't have a Pesach. I didn't eat matzah. I said, it's not too late. I have matzah for you. And she's like, no. I have my dog. I have to go. I said, I have a matzah box. It's so light and it has a handle. I don't know who made these handles, but I was blessing them the whole way that day because of that handle. She agreed to take it from me. So I said, look, just eat a piece of matzah. You don't know what this matzah will do to you. I know that, sometimes things from our childhood can elicit so much, like a song that you listened when you were a kid. A piece of matzah is something that your mother gave you. Let's just say for someone who doesn't live in a Jewish community. We are very lucky. We live among a very Jewish community. You have kosher food right next to you. When you drive down to other areas, it's much harder. It's not everything is kosher, not everything is so available. And if you're not so motivated, or you don't have somebody motivating you, you could easily not buy matzah. And you could easily not feel the importance of Pesach. So I was very firm and I was annoying and I was like, you have to take the matzah because I knew it's going to do something good for her. But at the same time, I understood that I can't just give the matzah and go because it wouldn't have an effect. So I started a conversation with her, and I said, what's your name? I told her my name. Then she said her name is Yehudit, and she told me Judy. And then she said Yehudit in Hebrew. So just our meeting already changed it from Judy to Yehudit, which is such a big difference. And you see the difference right away. So when you have Gevura, it's good. If I would just be, okay, take the matzah, it's important. You have to eat matzah on Pesach, it's going to be good for your neshama. It wouldn't have I don't feel like it would have done what our conversation did later, because it left it on a different note. And then she told me about her parents and how they came to Brooklyn and that they got away from the Holocaust, and this whole 10 minutes conversation got into something much bigger than that. But just because I understood that just forcing her to take the matzah, it's not going to do everything, but I'm sure that when you get home, you put the matzah box on the table, you're like, yeah, I should have a piece of matzah. But the conversation later and understanding that Hashem orchestrated this meeting for me with her, it was like an amazing feeling. And I think it did a lot for her too. And we both left with feeling so good. I felt like I helped another Jewish person, and she felt like, wow, Hashem really saw me today. It's like, it's interesting. And this is like the, being in Gevura, but understanding that you have to combine it with other aspects and not just being firm, because it doesn't always work. Does anybody have an example like that where they had to be in Gevura, but they realized that being so firm or being Gevura the way you know it is not going to do the job, or it's not going to really have the effect that you want it to have? Yes. Yeah.
That's a life teacher, like with other, like chesed and Sarah.
Do you have something you want to share that was really like that you see it so like clear? Yeah, come on. Sharing is very special. It gives us.
Yeah, I'm just trying to like change the name.
Yeah, for sure.
That like I wanted to be rock, and I was able to like switch it over. I was helping this family, and I was dating 3 little girls, and one of them slapped another sister on purpose, and then we instructed her, and then she went and she dumped the bucket off her head, and that was a running discussion that like I can't do that, and I was ready to say, you already did this and that, and now you have to get out. And I started saying, already, do you like sushi? Come here, we're gonna be the first one. It was just like the switch that happened, like in mid-sentence. It was like, I do not want to tell her how she's going wrong so many times. This is definitely not a message I want her to have. Like in mid-sentence, I like caught myself. And like I switched it in that second. It was like so cool. And like she's like, yeah, I love sushi. I'm like, come here, you'll be the first. And she got dressed and went. I'm like, yeah.
You had Gevura within yourself to catch that moment and switch. Because it's much easier to just and then like what just came out of my mouth, but you were able to have that self-control of it. That's so
I don't know if this is like the Gevura of it, but it made me think of it. Recently I was trying to hire a videographer, like where what I'm
organization I work for. It was like last minute, and I'm talking to this guy, and he sounds good or whatever. We hang up, and I'm gonna call it back to see if I want to confirm. And in the meantime, we need the video to be done shot on Friday, and the editing needs to be done by Sunday. So it's a lot of fun. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call back. I'm gonna confirm. But then I realized that his name sounds really Jewish. And it wasn't like through like I know what he's from, like friends or whatever, and it was like through a website. I was like, okay, I think I need to ask him if he's Jewish, because then he's gonna work on Shabbos. And I'm like, oh no. I don't want to turn him off by saying like, are you Jewish? Oh, so then I can't hire you or whatever like that. And, like I was like, this is an uncomfortable conversation. So I called him back. I said, oh, okay, by the way, like I'm Jewish and this organization you work for or whatever, are you supposed to be Jewish? He's like, yeah, my name, like of course, like I'm Jewish. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, and like I'm being all friendly also. And I was like, I hope this question will take well. But I mean, this like, but basically since we're a Jewish organization and we're Jewish, we don't have people work on Shabbos for us. So like, would you be able to edit the video and get it ready in time? Like not do that. He's like, oh yeah, I've been told this before. And just like I felt like the attitude that I said it in, and being like before, like Shabbos is Shabbos, and you're another yid, and I care that you're not going to work on Shabbos, but still doing it in that kind way.
With with like, humility, not like condescending and saying like, you should
work on Shabbos, whatever. And he was like, hey, what time does Shabbat end?
That's so cute.
A little bit like late that night. I'm like, okay, we'll make it work. That's great. And it was just like so heartwarming to have that conversation with someone else.
That's a beautiful example.
Yeah.
You see, and again, like when we think about the Sefira, I feel like we think like it's just the count and the process is just a personal one, but no, it's we started personally with ourselves, but then we use it also with others, like in our interactions. So it could be with friends, it could be with family, it could be with coworkers, it could be with the husband or the wife. It's just so important that we take it out of our own selves and also use it, and really, that's how we actually refine ourselves, not just by refining ourselves, refining others, and refining the whole world by just using it in different situations. And I think that's what I noticed this year, of just not just working on yourself, like just using it in our world around us, and how important it is. It's also like I read this very cute story, and it's also understanding that sometimes we can have goodness, but if we don't know what to do with it, it's not going to help us. There was this guy that was they were very poor. He was a student of the Baal Shem Tov, and his wife was very, very like a little bit more greedy than he was. And she's like, go and steal one of the Baal Shem Tov's like horses or donkey or something like that. I don't remember the whole exact story. Yeah. And he really didn't want to do it. Like she really so the Baal Shem Tov was very like, he knew things. So he just left the barn open. Anybody could just come in, whatever. And he takes the horse and he brings him to his house, and he puts him in his barn, but he has nothing to feed him. So the horse is like hungry for 3 days. And the Baal Shem Tov comes to him and he said, why don't you just bring him back to my barn? So he says, okay. And he brings him back. He never wanted to steal it to start with, because he understood that, it's not going to help. They don't have money. How are they going to feed the horse? Even if you want him to work, he needs to eat. It's not going to help. It's better to go and ask the Baal Shem Tov for help, or how can I get a bracha to have, to merit to have more money or to have parnasa, rather than they just take something that you're not equipped to deal with. So as funny as the story sounds, we do this sometimes. We attain something, or we think if we have something, it's going to solve our problem, but we don't have the tools to be able to deal with it. So you get the thing, or you get the whatever it is, or you get to where you want to be, but you're not equipped to actually utilize the situation or utilize the thing. And that's also something to think about, that refining ourselves also, it's for the purpose of being able to use things to elevate ourselves. It's not enough to just, get something physically. You have to really do the spiritual work and the physical things that need to be done in order to use it properly. And as funny as the story sounds, we sometimes do that without realizing. And then when it sounds like somebody else is doing it, it's funny, but when we actually, think about it, we also do that a lot. And when the Baal Shem Tov was asked, why didn't you just close the barn so he doesn't steal it? So he said, that's like a whole 3 days of talk. So forget it. We're not going to even get into it. And so, another interesting story with Gevurah that I tell the kids sometimes, I use it a lot on Shabbos. There was, this one is actually a real story about a flight to Beijing. And maybe some of you know it because it's like, they have it in like the Shabbos stories for kids. And this guy wants to go to Beijing on Shabbos. And the travel agent says he or she were Jewish, and they said, no, we're not. I'm not scheduling you for a flight on Shabbos. I do have a flight on Friday morning or whatever it is that you'll get there on Friday. And he says, no, then I'll call a different travel agent. Then he hangs up the phone and he says, what is this? I can't believe this. Like, I'm also Jewish, but I'm not going to lose. Like, I can't believe that this travel agent was willing to lose work for not scheduling me to travel on Shabbos. So he's like, you know what? He thought about it for a minute. He said, if this travel agent is so firm about keeping like me being there before Shabbos, whatever, I'm gonna go with this travel agent. And he calls back, and I think it was she schedules him for the flight to get there on Friday, and she also arranges for him to eat somewhere for a Friday night meal. And this whole thing sounds interesting. So he's already in Beijing. He's having a Shabbos meal. In the meantime, the flight that went out on Shabbos disappeared from the radar, and they found it crashed later on. So his life was really saved. So after he got back and he found out this information, so he calls the travel agent and he says, like, I have to thank you for saving my life. And she tells him, I didn't save your life. Hashem saved your life. Shabbos, you kept Shabbos and Shabbos saved you. And he just like blown away. So it's really, she wasn't Gevurah. She knew what, just like your story. Yeah, and the one thing I didn't mention to you is that she was kind. She didn't tell him, oh, you don't keep Shabbos, I don't want to help you. She said, I will only schedule you to be there before Shabbos. And if you change your mind, call me back. So she didn't like say, don't, goodbye. She left it open for him to call back. So when he actually thought about it, and so what did she do? She did the right thing. She wasn't Gevurah, but she also elevated him, and it ended up saving his life. So he got, and he was there on Friday. He experienced a Shabbos meal. Maybe he became a Shomer Shabbos after. He had more respect for Yiddishkeit. And in the same time, they both got something out of it. So her Gevurah got him to be in a better place. And that's Malchut. That's when you're being a leader, but in a way that not just elevates you, elevates everyone else. The Rabbi Sachs, Lord Sachs, he passed away. He was so brilliant, and the Rebbe guided him a lot. And he was very fond of the Rebbe. And he said that the Rebbe was a leader that creates leaders. What is a leader that creates leaders? Is Malchut. It's that you're not interested to be the only leader. It's that your actions, the truth. And through your Gevurah, it's such a part of you, but in a way that it's kind and it's beautiful. And people they look up to that and they want to be like that. And you become their role model. And by your actions, you help someone else elevate themselves. And everyone becomes a small version of what you're doing, maybe not to the same level, but you gave them strength. Instead of being Gevurah and just bringing them down, your Gevurah elevates people, and that's the beauty of it. And when you can accomplish that, that's really beautiful. I started, like, when I started to work in Chinuch, I started as a director, as a operational director, then educational director, then both. Then sometimes I'm the teacher, and sometimes I'm all kind of things throughout the day. But yeah. And you know what? There's many people who are more professional than I am, but the point is that the way I started my work was as a director. So I had to direct situations, and it's very much a part of me directing, because in my earlier years, I also had like a few businesses, and I ran a business, and it's like just that experience of running an operation just stays in you. So you're used to telling people, please do this, but I was very gevura. I was very tough on myself and other people, and it was very hard. Like until you didn't really get to know me, people would be like scared of me. Like they would think that I'm like, oh, don't come close to her. She's gonna like give you work, you know. But and it took me time to understand that even though I'm good, I mean good. I want to accomplish things, but not everyone is in the same line where you are, and you need to align with everyone and be more sensitive to where they're standing. So if you don't, back up a little bit and have a little bit of softness and have a little bit, and of course I learned from the people that I worked with. So some people were more giver and some people were more, a little bit more through kindness, and some people were malchus, and just reading, and also the Rebbe Sichas, and learning about all kind of stories about the Rebbeim. It changed the way I looked at situations, and also just seeing children interact and teachers interact in work environments. And it made me think that you could still be in Gevura, but you have to blend it with other things. And then it has a far more reaching result. And it took me many years to balance it, and I'm still learning. But it's this is why we do the Sefira every year, because it gives us the opportunity to learn every year something new, and to change something, and to elevate ourselves in different ways and in different levels and in different points. And as we get older, I think we get better at it, and we're able to also help others. So we start the process with ourselves, but really you're also able to help others as you yourself understand what you needed to change and how it worked for you. Does that resonate?
I think something I got from what you're saying also is that Gevura is being strong. It's being, doesn't mean being mean.
Yes.
It's two very different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I thought that, like, in the beginning, to define it first, and I went straight to the story, but really,
You did great.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So basically, like most people, when they hear like Gevura, they're like strength, and then I thought about it, that it could also be different. Like for some person, it could be being strong and firm, and for some people, Gevura meaning being able to just overcome something that's hard for you, and that in itself is Gevura. So I look at it more as strength, and for me, Malchut, I look at it as like, being noble, but in a way that you're not separated from others, being noble in a way of humility, like the Rebbe taught us, like the song with Har Sinai, right? That we got the Torah on Har Sinai because it was a humble mountain. It wasn't huge. It wasn't, and that's the way to be able to have a far-reaching effect. And I think that's really what when I think of Malchut. So Malchut within the Gevura is having that softness and having the vision and understanding how to get someone else or yourself to that vision through being persistent, through being strong, but understanding that there's that softness can also help, but softness in a way that's guided. Like, so you have to, still limited, because Malchut in its own, it's something different, and Gevura is something different. Like, meaning, for example, with the story with the Alter Rebbe, that he had to be very firm. The guy didn't understand what he was doing. Is like, what do you mean? Like first of all, like he wanted the list to be in a certain way, because he knew that his way works. He knew what he knew is to be true is true. And he knew that if he follows that path, he would reach the desired result. And without being like, if he would say, okay, let's forget it, let's not go to this guy, let's take this whole situation and change it up, they would have gone to the whole town, and nobody has enough money. So everyone would scrape what they want. By the time they would get to this man, they would be tired already. And having this whole back and forth with him probably would have been like, they would have not been able to do it. And they wouldn't have enough money, because he knew for a fact that the whole town put together did not have enough money. So that could also, when you think about it, doing certain things in a certain way can also change the outcome of a situation. So that's also very, with children especially, like, sometimes when you want to help a child and you see that they're going through something, and you could take a route that's going to be really long and not get you to a good place, and you could take a route that might be like a little bit shorter, but it's, as you're going through it, might seem a little bit difficult, and you might have to give up from yourself a little bit and some of your ideals, like derech aruka אבל קצרה and derech קצרה אבל ארוכה, you know. Anybody wants to share anything?
I just want to say I really resonate with Gevura very much in my personality. So hearing the Malchus aspect of like making sure that it's done in a way that has a balance and bringing things up, very important to me.
It was very like at one point in my life, I was also very confused about it, because I'm like, okay, so if I don't know how to do it in any other way, like I'm used to doing things and I'm like, this is what needs to be done and that's it, just do it. Like, why do we have to discuss it? But then I realized like there is another way to do that, and you could still, and I only realized it after actually going through the change and seeing that really you could still be in Gevura. I still say a lot, no, this doesn't work, you'll understand it later, and or just doing things in a certain way, but then going later and explaining. I sometimes I have no time to explain, and I'll sit later with like certain staff members and I'll tell them, look, I know you didn't understand this and this at this time, but I did it for this and this and this. And they'll say, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, it's because I have a certain vision. I don't have always the time to explain it. So as long as you take the time to understand that somebody else's opinion also matters, and the fact that they need to understand something in the process also matters, it gives a different perspective, and it has a different momentum. And at the end result is much better for everyone.
It's also there. A lot of people can take Gevura also as boundaries. It's something that it's something that people work on. Having boundaries, setting boundaries, reacting to other people's boundaries. And I think you brought in such a beautiful way that it's boundaries doesn't mean it has to be delivered in a rough way. It can be delivered in a way that uplifts the other person, as you were saying about Malchus.
You actually brought a very important point of boundaries. So I also like, you know, I have different people in my life, and I see how different people deal with boundaries. I think it's very hard, like for Chabad houses also, like for example, with boundaries, and what is the boundary between your family and the people that surround you, or when you're a person that works with a lot of people and you're constantly around people, when is the boundary that this is my space? And I think this is what I also think that what's beauty in the Malchus of Gevura is that you can create boundary without hurting others, and by making them understand that they're a part of this process, but in order for you to continue giving, sometimes you need that space and that, you know, and some people, because, you know, I listened the other day to something about trauma for children, like how to deal with trauma, and how do children that went through trauma in their childhood, how they react to certain things. And sometimes children who go through trauma, and not necessarily just children, some people grow up with it, they never dealt with it. So as adults, they react to certain things with a trauma brain, like meaning their reactions are not healthy reactions. And sometimes helping people understand that certain choices that you make are not personally against them, and could actually also, there's something for them to learn about it also when you behave in a healthy manner and you have Gevura about it, but at the same time you're kind and you're showing that it should be an example also for others. Others learn from that, and it's being an example. Having the right Gevura and connected with Malchut is being an example, just like a leader or a king or our Rabbeim. They were an example to us, and we learned from the way they conducted themselves. And even stories about the Rebbe and the Rebbitzin, like that they used to have their tea time, and the Rebbe was, you know, the Nasi Ador, and he took the time to go see his mother and to sit with the Rebbitzin to have their tea time, and all these things found space in his life because it was important, because it gave him strength to be able to continue giving. So sometimes Gevura is taking care of yourself in a way that you can continue giving. Because if you're just giving all the time, there's no boundary to it. it depletes you, and you become like tired, and you're just, I sometimes also, I sit at home for like an hour or two, and I just read. I disconnect. I don't look at my phone. I don't touch anything, because if I don't have something, I'm going to get out of the house and someone is going to need something. I'm not going to have any wise words to give them. It just doesn't work. So if I don't give that time to myself for just a little bit, I'm not going to be able to give anything. And that's very, very, very important. And also when we do that, again, we teach others, and others look at that. The Rebbe, once I asked something in the Igris, and I got a letter that the Rebbe wrote to someone, and he said, you don't realize, but sometimes the people are looking at you, and just by even your face reactions or the way you talk, people learn from you. So don't take for granted this position that you have in this specific area, because you're contributing just by being you. So it's interesting that sometimes you don't have to get out of your own self, just be you, and your gevura just helps your environment. But again, like I told you, and I learned it the hard ways many times. Sometimes I was really like the hated person in the facility for a little bit, until people get to know you and get to know that they understand. They start to understand that your gevura actually builds things, and that's it. And we learn from each other, so it's beautiful. So work on it today. I heard something very nice, like so the psychologist that I was listening to, so she said what she tells people to do when they come to her, she tells them to write, to recall the situations in their life that they felt like they failed in fixing, and that they wish they acted differently, and notice the patterns, their own patterns. And everyone has patterns, so you see the patterns of your behavior, and when you read it and you see, oh, this happens to me often. Is it positive? Is it negative? So just by looking at it and realizing it, you can actually make a lot of change in your life. So today, think about that and write it down, even, because when we write it down, we actually see it, and you'll see how it really makes a difference when you actually sit down and think about it for 10 minutes, write down the things that you feel that you're doing right, and the things that you want to change, and that's it, and do it, and follow through. And don't overwhelm yourself, just one or two things, because when you put down too much, it's just another list that becomes a list. I'm sure that's very common. And that's it. I feel like every year you work on something.
Journal.
I like that. Do you have a journal? Not yet.
He agreed with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was
If you
really
have questions, or you want me to, like, dig into something else, like, I'm open to it. They look tired today.
To be continued. Thank you.
Thank you.